Good morning, everyone. Glad to be back. If you would, we'll turn in our Bibles again today in the book of Deuteronomy, the fifth book. And we're going to start with chapter 20. And of course, last week, or not last week, but the last time we studied in Deuteronomy, we had talked about landmarks, other rules, and Moses was reviewing these rules and the ways to behave and the way to conduct war and other things to this new generation that was headed into the promised land and had left Egypt about 40 years ago. And I was thinking this morning, the world was it was a rough place back in those times. If you think about it, Egypt, I know it was civilized, but man, they'd made slaves out of the Jewish people, and it would have been hard to survival back then. But God had chosen his people, a select group of people to survive in that, and the goal eventually would be to set an example for everyone else in the world. They were to be different than everybody else in the way the world was living at that time. Had they obeyed God by his rules and did everything he said, they would have been an example of how a nation should live. And God promised them if they obeyed and set that example, they would be blessed. And so, that's really a kind of one of God's miracles, to take one group of people like that and give them the rules for them to set an example for everybody else in that world there, that they would be blessed too if they would do like that. But unfortunately, they were headed into a land where God knew that part of that wasn't going to be possible. There were going to be some groups of people when they crossed that Jordan River that hated God. And there would be no converting those people to, you could never set an example enough for those people. And we'll read about some of them today if we get that far along. God will tell which nation of those people they are. There's a lot of the ites when we get there. But here in chapter 20, and we'll start out here, and it's verses 1 through 4. I will read first. We got some rules for warfare. So with that being said, Moses knows that there's going to be war coming up here in the near future for these people. And God has a certain way for them to conduct themselves even in that practice. And the verse Steve read this morning, trust in the Lord and not the confidence of man, that verse in these early books of the Bible right here, that's kind of the big story here. They got to obey God and do these things the way God, and we'll see here, conduct warfare the way God wants it to be done, and not in the confidence of their own ways, but do things according to God. Because if you remember, not many chapters ago, we remembered when it was talking about the kings, and the Bible said, not a sign of a bad king was going to be they'd have a lot of horses and etc. like that. Now, why would a king want a lot of horses? To pull chariots. And who had horses and chariots in abundance? Egypt had them. And we see how they fared at the Red Sea. And God won that battle for them. So in direct picture of that right there, if you got a people that accumulate a bunch of horses and chariots to go fight their battles for them, who are they putting their trust in? Themselves, not God. So we'll see some of that here this morning when we read that, when they go to warfare, let God do the battle for them and not trust in themselves. And we'll see some things here coming up pretty soon. What's more important to God before they go into battle, even in who they allow to go to battle. So you'll see that even this battle is not most important. But anyway, I'm going to read verses 1 through 4. And when thou goest out to battle against thine enemies, and seest horses and chariots, and a people more than thou, so even a larger army, be not afraid of them, for the Lord thy God is with thee, which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. You know, Moses brings this point up a lot, repeats it over it as we read through this book, because of that miracle that is nothing they could have overcome by themselves. As a people, nothing, there's no way they could have overcome that. God won that battle, if you want to call that a battle or that circumstance. Verse 2, and it shall be when ye are come nigh unto the battle, that the priest shall approach and speak unto the people. Verse 3, and shall say unto them, Hear, O Israel, ye approach this day unto battle against your enemies. Let not your hearts faint, fear not, and do not tremble, neither be ye terrified because of them. So, what happens with, you see here when they get scared and they tremble, it kind of spreads just like it'll spread amongst the people right there. If one is scared, and if they keep their faith in God and they don't tremble with fear and don't be scared, it'll benefit everybody right there. And they need to keep it in the back of their mind and have the confidence, not in themselves, but God is going to win the battle. Think about the picture of David versus Goliath. Did he go up trembling and shaking? No, he reached down, picked up some stones, and said, let's take the battle to him. And we know why, because David had God behind him. He knew it. All right. Now I'm going to read verses 5 through 8. And the officers shall speak unto the people. You had leaders, picked out in a lot of these circumstances, everything they did. They had some people who were selected as leaders in situations, saying, What man is there that hath built a new house and hath not dedicated it? Let him go and return to his house, lest he die in battle and another man dedicate it. And that's like he's declaring it to God. So this is one of those things I just previously said just a minute ago that's more important than the battle itself. God sees at this part where a man needs to go dedicate his home, his new home, dedicate it to God, say he's going to set this forth to God, then go into battle right now. God can make those kind of decisions and tell them that, and that reinforces that. If they're willing to look at their fellow man who they're about to go in battle with, and they know that God sees it, it's more important that, and we got some more things we're about to read here, that he go dedicate his home to God before he goes into a battle. All right. Verse 6, and what man is he that planted a vineyard and hath not yet eaten of it? Let him also go and return to his house, lest he die in battle and another man eat of it. And these kind of things, if you were going into battle as a man, think about it. These would be things, that would be, it might even be make a man's heart weak if he went, he just had these things. And what man is there that, verse 7, that hath betrothed a wife and hath not taken her? Let him go and return unto his house, lest he die in the battle and another man take her. So it's more important than going out to this battle for a man who's engaged to his wife to go ahead and follow through with the ceremony with that and become man and wife than to be going into battle with that engagement going on. All right, so that shows you what these things mean to God. Husband and wife is really important. The home is important to God. All these things, if they are right and going according to God, these are really important things. It set the pace for everything else in their society right here, the things that God sees are really important. Husband and wife, being betrothed, a home dedicated to God, planting, trusting in God to provide a crop and food for you and stuff like that. Those are really important. All right, lost my page there. What did I get to, verse 7? Verse 8, and the officers shall speak further unto the people, and they shall say, What man is there that is fearful and faint-hearted? Let him go and return unto his house, lest his brethren's heart faint as well. And that's what we talked about there in the first verse, couple of verses back there. That would spread like wildfire. If you had one man that was scared to death and faint-hearted, that would lead to other ones within the camp to be scared and fear and like that. And you can see that even in the society today. People tend to follow along with what the people beside them are doing too. You can see that even today. Man has a tendency to do that, to be influenced by the feelings and emotions and fears that people around them have. It can spread to other people. But if you got the men going out to battle there who trust in God and they know God's going to win that battle, and David's like right in front of them and he's ready to pick up the stones and take the battle to them, that's going to be an encouragement to his fellow soldiers out there on the battlefield. Not only there, but also in life as well, I think. All right. Now, I'm going to read verses 9 through 14. And it shall be, when the officers have made an end of speaking unto the people, that they shall make captains of armies and lead the people. Just kind of assigning duties and importance to people, what they're to do, and make decisions. When thou comest nigh unto a city to fight against it, then proclaim peace unto it. And it shall be, if it make thee answer of peace and open unto thee, then it shall be that all the people that is found therein shall be tributaries. That's going to be those who provide service and like make payments to the nation of Israel. Tributaries unto thee, and they shall serve thee. Verse 12. And so if they surrender peacefully, that's what they'll be done. They'll be spared. And if it will make no peace, and if this is city, they come up to it and it decides it ain't going to make peace, it's going to fight to the death, but will make war against thee, then thou shalt besiege it. So then they've got to attack, in other words. And when the Lord thy God hath delivered it into thy hands, thou shalt smite every male thereof with the edge of the sword. But the women and the little ones and the cattle and all that is in the city, even all the spoil thereof, shalt thou take unto thyself, and thou shalt eat the spoil of thine hands, which the Lord thy God hath given thee. So, there again, that seems hard. I know it does. That's the rules, the way it was then. But the leaders of a nation are the men, and God has seen fit to go into that land, and if they're not willing to surrender, they are to be gotten rid of as well. Life in general, for the ones who are not the ones that God's going to tell here, God's going to give a list of those to be exterminated, unfortunately. I mean, it's just the way it is, and there's reasons for it. But these here are the ones that the leaders, the men, those are ones that's in charge. They're going to have to be gotten rid of. But think about that too, the women, the animals, and et cetera like that for this nation, and the children. Life was pretty hard. What I'm trying to say is life was, it was valuable. It was really valuable. And probably not so easy. I mean, I'm sure there were a lot of child deaths. There were a lot of sickness. You didn't have hospitals. So, you bring them into your group, the women and the children. Hopefully you increase your population. And, it should work out in a benefit for the nation right there. But if you bring in a bunch of leaders who, number one, they want to fight and got a bunch of beliefs that they don't believe in God, or they lead their people into worshiping false gods, you can't have that in a nation. You can't have that leadership brought in there with it. It's going to crumble. I'm sorry, it's just the way it is. And that's where we're at now. It seems hard, it seems harsh, but in a nation under one God, you can't have leaders from worshiping 2 or 3 different gods at the same time. It ain't going to work. And that's where they were leading their nation, their people. So, all right. See if I got to 14. Where did I get into the cities? No. Yeah, 14. But the women and little, yeah, we got it. Yeah. Now I'm going to read 15 through 18.
Thus shalt thou do unto the cities which are very far off from thee, which are not of the cities of these nations, but of the cities, now that's the ones that's far off, but now we're about to see about the ones that's the really problematic cities, the problematic people. These have got some real problems, really bad problems, and that's why we're going to read about this. But of the cities of these people which the Lord thy God doth give thee for inheritance, thou shalt save alive nothing that breatheth, but thou shalt utterly destroy them, namely the Hittites, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, the Jebusites, as the Lord thy God hath commanded thee, that they teach you not to do after all their abominations. That's what we were just talking about. The male leaders from places, except these here, it's so bad and it's so widespread that it's going to require complete elimination. God knows there is no coming back for these people. All we have to remember is back to the point, Sodom and Gomorrah, how bad that was, that it was erased. And I guarantee you that's where these people were headed, in that same path that Sodom and Gomorrah was headed. All right, so we got God commanded, and then verse 18, that they teach, and that's where I was at. Which they have done unto their gods, so should ye sin against the Lord your God. So God's telling them, if these people are not eliminated, it's what we just said, they will teach you their ways. They will turn you against God. They hate God. We know they hate God. And so they are to be exterminated. All right. Now I'm going to read 19 and 20. When thou shalt besiege a city a long time and making war against it to take it, they'll go around, surround these cities and fight and cut off their supplies and try to starve them out. Thou shalt not destroy the trees thereof by forcing an axe against them, for thou may eatest of them. So God's telling them, and when you besiege a city, and it's got a fortification around it, and it's hard to climb a wall unless you got a ladder or a tower or a battering ram. So they would manufacture this stuff on site with the trees that were around them. And coming up in the future, you'll see that the Roman Empire, man, they didn't spare nothing. When they besieged a city, they cut every twig. Anything they could find to use, they would do whatever they had to do to overcome a city. But God's given them some common sense rules right here. If you're going to fight this city, don't kill the trees that you can eat thereof, is what God's telling them right here. Think about the future a little bit. But man, you'll see in the future Rome, and that probably went back even to the way they warred back then. It was probably going on then because God already knows, so Moses is warning them about this is the type of warfare, don't do this. So, but yeah, Rome, you'll see in the future, if you do much history reading on that, but Rome they didn't spare nothing. All right. Trees there by forcing out an axe, for thou may eatest of them, and thou shalt not cut them down, for the tree of the field is man's life to employ them in the seed. So God provides for man there. Now I'm going to read 20. Only the trees which thou knowest that they be not trees for meat, thou shalt destroy and cut them down, and shalt build bulwarks. That's ladders, towers, and rams, like I was telling you about, against the city that maketh war with thee until it be subdued. All right. Now we're starting in chapter 21. We're going to have some rules now. We're going from war to kind of like court here. We got investigating, and we got rules for marriage, and then boy, dealing with rebellious sons. Has anybody had to deal with a rebellious child? So Moses is going to tell them that they got some things here, rules for this to guide them as they get into this new land. So I'm going to read 1 through 9. Manslaughter is the heading at this. If one be found slain in the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee to possess it, lying in the field, and it be not known who hath found him, if they find a man laying in the field and nobody knows who killed him, he's just dead, then the elders and thy judges shall come forth, and they shall measure unto the cities which are round about them to see which is slain.
So they're going to see what the closest city is to where this man might be from, where he might be from. All right. And it shall be that the city which is next unto the slain man, the closest one, even the elders of that city, remember these elders are those guys that sit out at the front gate, out at the gate of the city, and they do a lot of judicial decision making for the town there. A lot of decisions are made at the gate by the elders. And that shall take a heifer which hath been wrought, and which has not been wrought. So they take an animal, a heifer that has not been worked, is what that means, and which hath not drawn in a yoke. It's not been in service for plowing, etc., like that. And the elders of that city shall bring down the heifer unto a rough valley. A rough valley is just one that's not been farmed at that time. It's up just trying to think of the word for that. But it's not being farmed at that time. And which is neither eared nor sown, and shall strike of the heifer's neck, and that's to break the heifer's necks there in the valley. And I know this is kind of, but this is the way it's to be done. And the priests and the sons of Levi shall come near, for them the Lord thy God hath chosen to minister unto him, and to bless in the name of the Lord, and by their word shall every controversy and every stroke be tried. But the good thing is, right here, you think about that, the importance of this heifer. Of course, it had some value as an animal. But like we've always, we've read in the previous books and chapters that God puts a value on life, and a man's life has got value, and they need to, they're doing according to God's plan here to show that they acknowledge that man's life has value, and they want to make things right with it. And so they're trying to do the best they can by going to this, see where he might be from, see what happened to the guy. Because, if you got a nation that it's just people are killing people and there's no repercussions or no punishment, etc. for that, it just ends up in total chaos over time. So man's life has a value, even, at this point. All right, let me see where I got. And all the elders of that city that are next unto the slain man shall wash their hands over the heifer that is beheaded in the valley. And this is just like a symbol of like an innocence, what they're doing here. And they shall answer and say, our hands have not shed this blood, neither have our eyes seen it. So they're going to do this, and they're acknowledging, hey, we didn't do this. And, they're kind of like making a vow there, saying, we didn't kill this man, and they didn't see it. Be merciful, O Lord, unto thy people Israel. Because they didn't see it, but they know that God has seen. God knows who done it. Be merciful, O Lord, unto thy people Israel, whom thou hast redeemed, and lay not innocent blood upon unto thy people of Israel's charge, and the blood shall be forgiven them. So, they know wrong's been done here, and they don't know who done it, but they know enough that somebody or the group of people could be punished by God for this. So, but they're making sure they're acknowledging that they don't condone this, and they're wanting God to spare them as a people there. All right. So it's a ritual for atonement of this act, which deserved capital punishment. That's what I said. For murder and stuff like that, because there needs to be a punishment for it. I know I got you a little confused on that, but it's kind of a little tough one there. Now I'm going to read 10 through 14. Marriage and family life. When thou goest forth to war against thine enemies, and the Lord thy God hath delivered them into thine hands, and thou hast taken them captive. Now we're fighting one of those cities, that's not to be completely eliminated. All right. And seest among the captives a beautiful woman, and as a desire unto her that thou wouldest have her to wife, then thou shalt bring her home to thine house, and she shall shave her head and pare her nails. That's the cut the nails. And she shall put the raiment of her captivity from off her, and shall remain in thine house, and bewail her father and her mother a full month. She's going to have a period of time there to grieve. And after that shall go in unto her and be her husband, and she shall be thy wife.
And it shall be, if thou have no delight in her, then thou shalt let her go whither she will, but thou shalt not sell her at all for money. Thou shalt not make merchandise of her, because thou hast humbled her. So, and put her in a less desirable position for the other people in the community there. So that God's saying that's a no-no, and it's just another one of those things. It's hard times in a hard world. And I'm going to read verses 15 through 17. If a man have two wives, one beloved and another hated, and, before we step into this, about polygamy, multiple marriages, it's allowed in here in the Old Testament by God's permission. I mean, he lets them do it. But if you think back God's original plan, if you think back, what was it? Adam and Eve. It was one man, one woman to have a marriage. It would be blessed. But you can see right here with this polygamy, it's one of the things that's subject to happen right here when the man, he's going to like one better than the other. So you're starting out on the wrong foot right there, number one, by doing something according to the way, not doing it the way God had it planned. Is what if they'd do it like God. There's no room for liking somebody more than the other and causing conflict in the home and agony and strife and all that. So it would be, we know, according to God, one man, one woman would be a lot more peaceful and would work a lot smoother. So we see that in just the first sentence of this right here. All right. So let me finish here. 15, yeah. 16, then it shall be, when he maketh his sons to inherit that which he hath, that he may not make the son of the beloved firstborn before the son of the hated, which is indeed the firstborn. So there again, this polygamy situation can run into, even in inheritance, it's going to cause problems and strife and turmoil amongst the siblings right there. So it's not a good thing, all right? Now I'm going to read 17. But he shall acknowledge the son of the hated for the firstborn by giving him a double portion of all that he hath, for he is the beginning of his strength. The right of the firstborn is his. Verse 18, if a man have a stubborn and rebellious son, which will not obey the voice of his father or the voice of his mother, and that, when they have chastened him, will not hearken unto them. So there again, it's just more proof of what that kind of relationship and that marriage would cause. It's just more strife and more problems. And even it would probably, it's even going to increase the likelihood of having rebellious children, and they're going to be, trying to think the word for that. I can't think of that this morning, but not well-wishing amongst themselves there. They would be greedy sometimes, or have animosity is what they might have. Now I'm going to read 18 through 21. If a man have a stubborn and rebellious son, which will not obey the voice of his father, the mother, and there we go, hearken unto them, then shall his father and his mother lay a hold on him and bring him out unto the elders of the city, unto the gate of his place. So if he's got a rebellious son, if they have a rebellious child to the point, a son, that they can't do nothing with them, they're to take them to the elders of the city. And so you've got a problem here that they can't even deal with at home, and they're going to have to take it to the elders. And they shall say unto the elders of the city, this our son is stubborn and rebellious. He will not obey our voice. He is a glutton and a drunkard. All right. Yep, I got to keep going. 21. And all the men of the city shall stone him with stones, that he die. So shalt thou put evil away from among you, and all Israel shall hear and fear. There again, I'll sum it up. Hard times. It's hard times, man. Delivering harsh treatment in harsh ways sometimes. All right, I'm going to do 22 and 23. And if a man hath committed a sin worthy of death, and he be to be put to death, and thou hang him on a tree, his body shall not remain all night upon the tree, but thou shalt in any wise bury him that day, for that he is hanged is accursed of God, that thy land be not defiled, which the Lord thy God giveth thee for inheritance.
there again, we have a picture of things in the future, glorious things. And hang from a tree and think of the work of Jesus on the cross when you read it, even this far back in the Bible. And Paul, I was going to read, but it alludes to this in Galatians 3:13 if you want to follow up, but it's time for me to stop. So I'm going to dismiss us with a prayer, and we'll end that chapter on a good note. Dear God, I